Hi guys, today I want to discuss the intriguing, highly uniform quarry marks discovered at many ancient megalithic sites, which seem to be a shared mystery across cultures and continents. For example, Longyou caves in China is believed to be over 2,000 years old, discovered by accident in 1992. Its highly regular, layered and slanted tool marks share an interesting resemblance with modern hard rock mining machine marks. Similar markings can also be found at quarries in Germany, France, and Switzerland, the quarried mountain of Mount Nokogiri in Japan, the Osiris shaft on the Giza Plateau, and the Bazda caves in Turkey. Why do so many megalithic places have similar tool marks? Although these uniformed quarry marks look like machine marks, many argue they are all excavated by countless hours of manual labor using hand tools. Besides these layered tool marks, there are also the long, continuous type and multiple ancient stone structures, such as the oversized markings at Baalbeck in Lebanon, Yangshan quarry, and Changyu grottos in China. Petra is a unique site with both the angled and layered markings and the long, continuous ones. You might wonder, why am I interested in old tool marks? Because they are the fingerprints or physical clues left behind to help decipher these megalithic wonders and the cultures that created them. Were these marks produced by machines from a lost advanced civilization, or were they the work of tenacious human labor? How to differentiate hand tool marks from machine marks? After studying the sites with similar quarry marks, I came up with a method on how to tell whether the tool marks are handmade or not, which I'll show in this video. Let's first check out various enigmatic quarry marks from noteworthy places. Longyou Caves is one of the largest underground sites, containing over 40 massive caves excavated inside sandstone hills. The average cave floor area is over 1,000 square meters, which is the size of an American football pitch. Some caves have heights that soar up to 30 meters or equivalent to a 10-story building. This scale of work would have required immense manpower. Each cave is covered from floor to ceiling with the same intriguing tool marks, a series of bands about 60 centimeters or 2 feet wide. In between bands are parallelly carved slanted striations. By the way, the reliefs were added by the park as tourist attractions and not original. Were these uniformed, large-scale stoneworks made by hand tools such as chisels and pickaxes? But there are no signs of oil lamps or torches anywhere inside these caves. How did ancient masons dig the caves using precise and consistent tool marks without lighting? The astronomical amount of excavation work and the uniformity of the tool marks match modern salt mines. Here are side-by-side comparison photos of Longyou caves and a 20th century salt mine in Ukraine. The layers of parallel marks are quite similar, though the salt mine machine mark layers do not have the separation horizontal lines like the markings of Longyou. What's the point of carving these extra, continuous horizontal lines between layers? With chisels or pickaxes, workers would naturally make slanted quarry marks via a downward motion and a swinging of arms. But creating long, continuous, horizontal lines on stone is not that easy. Plus, for the purpose of cave excavation, it seems completely extraneous to make the effort to produce these long lines. Then why carve them? Longyou's slanted parallel striations are almost 100% homogeneous. Even at the inner cornered areas, the angles of the parallel grooves stay the same all the way towards corners. Please keep Longyou's horizontal lines an unchanging angle feature in mind, because they are differentiators that set Longyou caves apart from other quarries with layered tool marks. In Europe, there are many old open-air quarries with similar layered, slanted tool marks, like the Rock Temple quarries in Germany, the Staffelbach and Krauchthal quarries in Switzerland, Petra of San Antonio de Malili in Italy, and the Falaise Mapes quarry in France. The Krauchthal quarry is impressive with towering cliffs and deep, large, uniformly carved striations. The markings are consistent and parallel, almost like a designed pattern. but the tool mark angles often flip or vary in different courses. Sometimes the tool mark slanted angles change within the same course. At the inner corners, the quarry marks usually originate from the adjoining line of the corner and flare outwards. The hatched pattern with randomly changed tool mark angles is a sign of pickaxe work. Pickaxe marks tend to be curved, as the swing of the worker's arm forms an arc, while chisel marks are straight. Masons swing pickaxes to cut stone, which leave slightly curved striations. While closing into a corner, workers generally have to turn around facing the corner in order to swing effectively to cut the corner part. The Italian, Swiss, and French quarries mentioned above also share the characteristics of tool marks changing directions during mid-course, different courses, and at the inner corners. So does the Baalbeck caves in Turkey, which contain tool marks in diverse angles. Such features are noticed again at Mount Nokogiri, the Oya quarry, and many tough quarries in Japan. The layered slanted excavation marks of the Japanese quarries swap directions in mid-course and between courses like the herringbone pattern, and the tool marks originate from the adjoining lines of the corners and flare out. In Egypt, same qualities are present at the Gabel el-Silsila quarry along the Nile and the Osiris shaft on the Giza Plateau. Even though these megalithic sites, especially Mount Nokogiri and the Staffelbach quarry, have highly uniform quarry marks that do resemble the Longyou marks, they do not match the hyper-angle consistency of tool marks at Longyou. How can Longyou caves' slanted quarry marks stay in the same angles even at the inner corners? Could it actually be machine marks? Besides that, the big scale and a surprising tool mark consistency at these quarries are still baffling. Can people really generate such fine markings on rock with mere hand tools and manual labor? Hold these thoughts, I'll explain them later. Now let's observe another type of tool marks, the long continuous ones. There are various kinds of such markings, and all of them are fascinating in their own right. For instance, the oversized Baalbeck marks are taller than an adult. Some are straighter and some have big curvatures. The continuous lengths and large curvatures of the curved markings surpass the working zone of pickaxes. How did ancient stonemasons do this? Then we have the vertical, straight parallel tool marks at the Yangshan quarry in China. The sizes of the continuous markings are very long and fairly deep, which give the Yangshan blocks a coarser look. Near the coastline of China, several massive tough quarries contain another version of the long continuous quarry marks, the horizontal ones. Earlier, I explained that it's not natural for workers to carve long horizontal lines on rock. Thus, it doesn't make sense for masons to painstakingly carve these extremely long horizontal marks that do not work well for the purpose of quarrying stone blocks. So what tools were used to make these regular horizontal markings? Could it be advanced machinery? Speaking of machine work, in my opinion, the rose city of Petra in Jordan has the most obvious machine marks, despite its confirmed ancient age. Interestingly, Petra also has the herringbone pattern tool marks and chisel work. Seems multiple groups of people have worked on Petra with different tools. The urn tomb has a cavernous chamber of over 3,400 cubic meters, or 120,000 cubic feet. Whoever created this cave on a high cliff made the incredible effort to excavate out a humongous amount of stone that can almost fill 2 Olympic swimming pools. An equally striking feature of the urn tomb is the ultra-fine markings that cover the entire walls and ceiling. These highly uniformed parallel markings are impossible for hand tools to achieve and clearly resemble machine marks. The more perplexing thing is, the same tool marks show up at other Petra caves too, even on the round columns of the treasury. Some may argue that these markings came from tooth chisels, which I disagree. Here are photos of the Greek and Roman tooth chisel marks on soft rock marble. On a larger surface, Tooth chisel marks change angles frequently as opposed to the uniform parallel marks in the other two. In the previous video, I pointed out that Petra's most famous monument, the Treasury, had been reworked on with chisels, where point chisel and tooth chisel marks can be seen near the original machine marks. A chisel is struck with a hammer or mallet, allowing the user to make many controlled, small and precise strikes. Even if the tooth chisel was placed parallel with previous markings, slightly different strike force and angle change would leave a subtle clue of patchy unevenness, as seen here, which is distinguishable from the real parallel machine marks. Per mainstream academia, Petra monuments are 2,000 years old and excavated with traditional hand tools. Is this assumption reasonable or practical? Here is a clip of today's stonemason using chisel and hammer to work on sandstone. It's obvious that even with a relatively finished surface, it's still difficult to carve long, continuous, parallel markings within close proximity. We also need to consider that the sandstone in Petra is hard, with high quartz content. The stone is close to a 7 on the Mohs scale, thereby almost as hard as granite or steel. Carving hard stone in this mammoth scale would have been a daunting task, not to mention creating these unbelievably uniform thin marks. It's unnecessary and impractical to dress the gigantic caves with these tightly aligned long markings with chisels. Look at the fine work of these continuous carvings on the round columns of the treasury. This is beyond the ability of hand tool creation. What tools are able to excavate hard sandstone and leave such marks? The uniformity and consistency of the markings remind me of current-day continuous mining machines, which can create similar continuous parallel long markings. But Petra is ancient. There were no advanced machines 2,000 years ago. Then how did the caves get excavated in the first place? Could Petra have been originally the work of a more ancient civilization equipped with machinery and later got rediscovered and reworked by the people who left the herringbone type of tool marks? How to differentiate what tool marks are generated by hand tools and those of a machine origin? Say, if Longyou marks are machine-made, does that imply quarries with similar markings are also excavated by machines? I've contemplated this question for a while and came up with a method to determine which tool marks are most likely machine marks. I named it with the acronym of STEAM guideline, which has 5 judging factors. S stands for size, which is to check if the tool mark sizes surpass the hand tool's working range. T means the stone type, whether the markings are carved on really hard rock that require advanced metal tools and metallurgy techniques. E represents era, the time or age of the site, to see if the markings predate the existence of required metal tools. A denotes the angles of the tool mark striations. Do they fit hand tool usage customs? And M, the markings morphology. Do they display hand tool or machine excavation patterns? For megalithic sites with questionable tool marks, we can apply the STEAM guideline. If there are 2 or more factors that obviously defy the norm, then we might have legit ancient machine marks. Let's use the Krauchthal quarry in Switzerland as the first example, as its highly regular layered tool marks resemble Longyou markings. The quarry mark sizes are about 40 to 60 centimeters in height, manageable with hand tools. The stone type is the Bernese sandstone, which is soft and prone to weathering. Locals have recorded that this sandstone becomes softer when saturated with water. The quarrying era is from the late 17th to 19th century. Yes, Krauchthal and a few other quarries in a nearby mountain range are all modern-time quarries where masons had better metal tools. Chainsaws were later utilized. The tool mark angles are slanted. The striation angles flip and change between courses randomly and even in the same course. Masons can change their pickaxe swinging directions anytime they want to, while machine marks do not change their angled teeth marks that freely. Therefore, the herringbone pattern quarry marks with frequently changing tool mark angles are evidence of a hand tool creation. In contrast, Longyou marks are different, albeit Longyou and Krauchthal quarry marks share two commonalities in the tool mark sizes and stone type, but they differ in the rest of the three factors. Longyou Cave's era is assumed to be 2,000 years ago, a fallen artifact dated to the Song dynasty, which is between 10th to 13th century, hence the caves predate the modern era. Longyou's tool mark angles are consistently slanted in the same direction all the way to corners. There are also long, continuous, horizontal marks separating each course, even on the ceilings. These horizontal marks are gratuitous as excavation grooves, and no mason would do this kind of redundant work. On a morphology aspect, Longyou's layered marks have pretty much the same height, the same striation width and depth. The ultra-consistency of Longyou's excavation marks beats that of all previously mentioned quarries. Compared with Longyou markings, the heights of the Swiss quarry courses vary, the striation thickness and depths change, as if tools with different cut faces were used. And some areas of the Krauchthal marks are not layered like the rest. All this demonstrated the likelihood that a Krauchthal quarry is hand tool work, while Longyou caves are not. Nonetheless, it's hard to ignore that Krauchthal marks are quite uniformed. How could hand tools striking stone maintain that level of consistency? I think this probably relates to the fact that sandstone can be softened by moisture, a process recognized as water weakening. Most types of sandstone are susceptible to a loss of strength when wet, due to their porous nature. Sandstone soaks up moisture like a sponge, significantly weakening the mineral bonds that hold grains together. Because of this, climbing wet sandstone can be dangerous, since the stone can crumble, and the rock climbers are advised to avoid climbing sandstone cliffs 24 to 48 hours after a rain. The weakening effect is especially relevant for Bernese sandstone, which is known to be vulnerable to weathering processes. By checking local climate, I found that this region rains over 40% of the year and have notably high humidity levels year-round. Using picks to cut softened sandstone would have been much easier, especially with better and stronger modern tools. With my STEAM guideline, we learned that a Krauchthal quarry was a modern quarry with water-weakened sandstone. Ergo, its regular marks can be made through hand tools, and the site does show characteristics of hand tool work. Some nearby 17th to 20th century sandstone quarries, including the Staffelbuck, with layers of angled tool marks and traces of extracted blocks forming a stepped appearance, are all probably hand excavated. Likewise, the Japanese tuff quarries with similar banded herringbone tool marks, such as the 19th to 20th century Oya quarry, are also produced by hand tools. Modern pickaxes with improved metals can be very effective on the even softer rock, tuff. Certain areas preserved a work-in-progress quarry face, which have this stepped look, showing how stone blocks were extracted. The same morphological quality is present at many other quarries too. It's time to use the STEAM guideline to distinguish possible ancient machine marks from those hand-tooled ones. For instance, Petra's fine tool marks. Size-wise, they can go meters long and way beyond chisel or pickaxe working range. The stone type is hard sandstone with a lot of quartz. Petra is over 2,000 years old, before the Roman era, which had no modern time superior metal tools yet. The tool marks are straight and uniform and do not even change angles for the round columns. The markings are plain perfect and exquisite, looking like 3D printed. These factors combined signify that Petra's beautiful tool marks are impossible for ancient hand tool users to achieve. As a result, they must have been created through something sophisticated. Machines, perhaps? As for the large tool marks on the Baalbeck foundation stones, they are oversized, longer and taller than an adult, which is beyond the effective work zone of pickaxes. The stone type is limestone, a softer rock. Its historical era dates back to pre-Roman occupation over 2,000 years ago. The tool mark angles are straightish in large curves or concentric circles. There is no reason for a mason to make the great effort to create concentric circled lines with pickaxes to rough-shape stone blocks. This is way out of the ordinary. Morphology-wise, the excavated stone surfaces are very rough, the tool marks are deep, and the markings' depth remain unchanged from beginning to end. This means the applied force was consistent and steady. The spacing between each striation are bigger than most megalithic sites and around 3 times wider than the pickaxe spacing at a Krauchthal quarry. These are signs of powerful, single-tooth or fewer-teethed tools, which took larger bites of the material. The wide tool mark spacing and the roughness of the stone surface look like the jackhammer marks of the modern Longyou reliefs. By the way, a jackhammer is exponentially stronger than a pickaxe and can be up to 150 times more efficient for breaking up rock, though it will still be difficult to use jackhammers to create such long parallel striations, which begs the question, just how are these huge blocks excavated? Consequently, the Baalbeck tool marks exhibit extraordinary features that do not fit into the hand tool category and therefore leaning towards machine-made. Next, let's apply the guideline to the Chinese quarries with unique horizontal tool marks. These markings are remarkably long, which extend indefinitely. This is extremely unusual, and no mason would excavate stone in such a manner. The stone type is tuff, a soft volcanic rock. The exact era is uncertain, as historical quarrying activities spanning a wide period from 10th to 19th century. The angle of the markings is mainly horizontal, a truly unnatural angle for hand tool cutting. The morphology of the horizontal marks has a uniformed texture. The spacing of the marks are wide, approximately 3 inches or 9 centimeters apart, close to the Baalbeck tool marks. Another interesting morphological character about these quarries is the large, gentle, round corners where the horizontal markings curve smoothly around the quarried areas. This curved excavating formation resembles the cut faces of modern rotary drum cutters when making lateral, side-by-side movement. Despite being soft rock quarries, the tool marks showcase several factors that negate hand tool creation. The super long sizes, the horizontal angle, the round cornered quarry facades, and the wider spacing between excavation marks, all of which signal a non-hand tool and possibly machine origin. A side note, the herringbone pattern of quarry marks alone is not a definitive indicator on whether the site is made by hand tools. Petra has both machine and hand tool markings, and the chisel marks are placed on top of the machine marks, which reveal that the chiseling came after the advanced machine work. I discussed this detail in a prior video. The link is at the upper right corner. It's not uncommon to find various quarry marks at a single megalithic site. Later tool marks may cover or obscure earlier markings. Hence, we need to examine the place of interest from all aspects. To recap, many quarries in Switzerland, Germany, and Japan, like the Krauchthal, Staffelbach, and the Oya quarries, were hand-excavated during the modern era. On the other hand, Petra, Baalbeck foundation stones, Longyou caves, and Changyu grottos are beyond the capacity of hand tools and most likely machine-produced. Ancient machine marks is a forbidden, if not taboo topic that has been purposely ignored by mainstream academia. Most archaeologists jump away from the idea that there could have been a previous sophisticated civilization that developed powerful machinery and built amazing stone sites. They gloss over and fail to answer how advanced megalithic sites were created. Avoiding the difficult question is not going to make it disappear. The best honest strategy is to face it with an open scholarly mind. My STEAM method aims to differentiate the seemingly consistent layered hand tool marks from the real machine marks, which judges megalithic quarry markings from the following details: size, stone type, the site's dating era, the markings angles, and the morphology. When you doubt whether a site with Longyou kind of markings is really the work of a prehistoric civilization with machinery, you can use the acronym STEAM as your guideline. Let me know what you think. If you have any insights, please leave me a comment. If you like my video, please subscribe to my channel and share with others. You can also support me on Patreon, which is a monthly charge, or on Buy Me a Coffee. I appreciate your support. This is Curious Being. I'm Tina. Thanks for watching and see you next time.